This is the Blind Grilling Experience, and I am the most interesting griller in the world. Welcome back to the Blind Grilling Experience. I'm your host, Chris Peltz, and joining me once again is my good friend and fellow blind griller, Mr. John Grimes, down in Frisco, Texas. John, how you doing, man?
Hey, Chris, doing good. Good to be with the most interesting griller in the world once again.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, absolutely. I tell you what, man, it has been hot here in Missouri. It has been humid. We've been heat indexes over 100, and it is hard to get out and cook when it is not just that hot, but that humid. It's like hitting a wall when you walk outside. But we've still done some grilling. I know you've been firing up the grill a little bit and hitting it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about some failures, and cooking in some new areas. We got a little bit to chat and talk about today, and so I'm looking forward to that. And as always, just love having you joining me and being a part of what we've got going on with Blind Grilling Experience. So, yeah, what is it like down in Texas right now?
Yeah, it's hot.
Yeah,
it's hot. The lows are like in the mid 80s. Luckily for us, it's not too humid here.
Right.
So we got that going for us, but it's still blazing hot. I got where my grill's positioned, I've got a umbrella that provides some protection from the sun.
Yeah.
But it's hot.
If it's not humid, shade can make a huge difference. But man, when it is humid, it just it really just doesn't matter. Shade
and
or no shade.
When you're standing over a
grill.
2 to 600 degree grill.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man. I hear that. Well, you've been playing around with your expander system that you got for Father's Day. I know you've been doing some cooks on that with some more burgers and brats. And how's that going?
It's going pretty good. I'm understanding my limitations with what my boundaries are with how much I can put on there, because last maybe a week and a half ago I had it set up with 12 of these slider burgers in the fish basket, and 5 brats. The burgers on the bottom, brats on the top. That's all we had, so that's what I cooked. And a couple days ago, I did the same burger routine, but I had 10 brats up on top. And I was out there watching it, and there was a lot of smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what they say, Chris?
Yeah, where there's smoke,
there's
fire. That's right.
And I wasn't really, I hadn't, as crazy as it sounds, I noticed that it was smoky, more so than normal, but it never really clicked to me. I mean, I knew that's what was going on, but I don't know, it never really clicked to me that I should be paying closer attention to it for some reason.
Right.
And by the time I got everything off, the burgers were editable, but they got the brunt of the flame broil, if you will. So,
right. And you weren't using your Flame Boss, right? Because of the.
No, I was.
Okay.
I don't cook without it.
Yeah.
I mean, I cooked, use the Flame Boss every time. The exception to that, which is something I'd like to visit with the Flame Boss guys about, which, otherwise is a tremendous device, is at the high temperatures. When I cook a filet hot and fast, like 600 degrees, it'd be nice for the Flame Boss to be telling me the temperature. I have to rely on the position of the sun to know what the temperature is.
Right. Yeah.
But no, the boss was the cruise control was on.
Yeah.
And it was maintaining the right temperature. It was just flames
flaring up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all the grease, it was just too much grease from the brats.
Gotcha.
And that's what it was. So luckily, there were, of the 12, I would say about 7 were editable, and we did ate about half of those, and I told my wife, I said, these are terrible.
Right.
We have to do this again. So the next day we went back to the store and got 12 more, redid it, just the burgers. And she said they were the best ones I've ever made. So
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
came back. And the brats were fine. They because they were up top, they didn't really get much flame. So the brats were fine. The burgers were just a little toasty.
Yeah.
Mostly around the edges. The inside of them was okay, but still a little more than I didn't like them.
Gotcha. Yeah. Of course, that's direct. You're cooking direct when you do
That's
that.
correct.
So there's no plate setter, or as the new guys call it, the convector was not in the egg. And so that, and that takes some getting used to as well. I mean, that's, adjusting from an indirect cook to a direct cook, especially being blind or visually impaired, is something that it can be a much bigger difference than a lot of people would realize. And certainly when you got the drippage, of course, with any grease that's going to flare up. So yeah, that can really impact your cook. So,
what do you do when you get a grease fire like that? Flames. I just don't get it because you're that good.
Well, it has been a long time since that has happened, but I don't do much that isn't indirect anymore. I mean, when we do burgers, I really like the smokehouse style burgers where we're just low and slow smoke. And even when I do some hot and fast cooks, I'll still use a plate setter, even with brats and hot dogs and stuff, and really get a nice smoky flavor even at a higher heat. So I just don't do the direct cooks at nearly as much. And so, if we're doing some, stir fry some vegetables or something, I might then, but they're in they're in some type of pan or basket. So it's not that much of an issue. So I've just made certain adjustments to where, I try to avoid that if at all possible.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, good lesson learned.
Yeah. I mean, they're no fun. I mean, that's something that, cause I've seen folks get very serious fires going, losing control and having to shut the egg down altogether. And for someone who's blind or visually impaired, once you do that, once you shut that egg down, I mean, you got to be really careful reopening that, getting things going back again. And it's pretty intimidating. It can be when you've got that happening. So yeah, I just try to avoid it as best I can altogether. And so far I've done pretty good with it. But yeah, it is, those are those lessons, I mean, trust me, I've lost hair opening up the egg without burping it, and flames coming out and getting me on the arms and eyebrows and all that. So, those are experiences that you definitely learn from, and you usually don't forget those. So, when they happen. So,
yeah, well, luckily mine wasn't too bad, but
yeah,
it is something I need to pay closer attention to.
Yeah. And now, what did you do different the next time? Was it just not having the brats, you think, or just did you do anything different with the burgers?
No, the brats were the issue, just the grease from the brats.
Yeah.
I mean, I've cooked 10 brats on there. Well, maybe it wasn't just the brats. The time before I generally cooked the 12 burgers.
Yeah.
Because I generally fill up the basket. And previously I've cooked, I'm sorry. I've never cooked them at the same time before the last time where I cooked 5.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I guess it just was, and I've been thinking about that too. Maybe if I go back and revisit, I'm trying to remember, those might have been a little toasty too, although they weren't noticeably really.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody said anything about it. But there might have been a little too much grease going on there, but 10 was definitely too much. Yeah. So I don't know if I need to use the plate setter or just need to cook them separately, even though I can cook them together.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the room I have, but maybe it's just not.
And maybe not even completely a plate setter as much as maybe just a little bit of a drip pan underneath just to help mitigate some of that. And, another thing you might think about too, one thing we haven't really talked about on this program, I just thought of, is the grill grate. The Grill Grate brand grill grates that are, I believe they're aluminum. And man, they, not only, do they get you a really good sear even at lower temperatures, but, they've got kind of that trough effect where they're catching a lot of that grease and and help prevent flare ups. So that might be an option as well, to put some grill grates down, and prevent that also.
So those are like solid? There's not space between the grates?
No, yeah, there is. Yeah, there's a little bit of space that creates kind of like a little trough effect. There's like a little trough in between each little grate. But it's like if you were to turn them over, there's a flat surface if you want to do smash burgers on them or something like that. But your fish basket will fit right on, set right on top of it, just like it does the regular grate as well. So it shouldn't have any problem, but it might help keep some of that drippage from getting down on your fire and the flare up. So
something else you gotta get, another accessory.
That's right. Your wife's gonna hate me. That's awesome. Yeah. So she's like, all right, you talked to Chris again. Oh yeah. So what are you going to buy now? Right. That's the way it goes. Oh man. Well, that's cool. But yeah, with this heat, of course, it's hard to fire up the oven in the house when it's this hot too, because even running the air, then the house gets hot. So we try to do as much cooking outside as we can in these situations, but yeah, sometimes you're going to be miserable no matter what. So it just, you want to be miserable inside or out. So, but we'll get through it. Everybody in the middle of the summer, everyone complains and wants cold weather. And when the winter comes, they complain and want the hot weather. So, I guess we're in that cycle right now anyway. So, I've had a couple of good experiences and a couple of pretty rough experiences myself here lately. I actually went on a fishing trip with my brother-in-law, and we went down to Branson, and I took a center cut of a whole beef tenderloin with us that was on sale here at a local butcher shop, and so I thought, man, we're gonna eat good one night, and it's a good thing because we didn't catch any fish, so good thing I took something to cook. Yeah. But we get down there, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna cook up my brother-in-law just a really good supper one night. And, sometimes you're thinking about, things that you're familiar with cooking. I do that I cook, beef tenderloins all the time. I do potatoes all the time. Well, the difference is when you get somewhere that you're not familiar with, you walk in and there's a kitchen you've never been in. The layout is completely unfamiliar. The pans you're unfamiliar with. Even when you've got all the other food supplies themselves, working your way around a very tight kitchen with, not your, utensils, not your pans, those kinds of things. That was really frustrating, for me, not being able to see and trying to figure out things, and certainly had to run my fingers under some cold water a couple times, just trying, feeling my way around on things. I mean, it turned out great. The food was good still, but it was definitely a little rougher, than being at home, somewhere you're familiar with, where everything is at and where to reach to the right or to the left or whatever it is, you're familiar with that. And that makes a huge difference that I think a lot of folks don't realize. When you're blind or visually impaired, you travel somewhere and you're so used to your kitchen and where things are, but then you go to this unfamiliar area and almost like, going to, somebody else's house and they're like, hey man, you love to grill, here, go ahead and, cook us up something. And, you're not familiar with where everything is. And it's just, it really is nerve wracking, at least for me in that situation. So everything turned out okay, but, I don't know, it was almost not worth it just for the stress that it caused.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
So, and that's, I don't know how much experience you've had trying to cook somewhere other than in your own backyard or your own kitchen, but that was definitely, kind of a frustrating especially, I was with my brother-in-law. My wife is more, she knows more of what kind of help, I need and things. My brother-in-law was willing to jump in and help, which was great. But, you'd really rather not have to have that if you don't, if you don't need it. But
yeah, I think, people that would travel or go places have the same type of issues without any kind of visual challenges. I mean, that's just you're in a new environment trying to figure things out. But I think with any kind of challenge like a vision impairment, just kind of magnifies those things and makes them, maybe not even worth going through the trouble to do that. So
yeah, sometimes,
how'd you cook the steak in the oven?
Yeah, well, so we found a skillet finally, and just with a little bit of olive oil and butter in the bottom of the skillet, we seared the tenderloin on top of the stove. I seared it for about 2 minutes aside, and then stuck it in the oven, and brought it to about a medium rare. So,
is there any left?
No, it was eaten. Yeah, it definitely turned out great. It really did turn out good, but it was definitely frustrating and nerve-wracking, just, because I'd forgotten my talking thermometer, my instant read, so I didn't have that with me. So I was definitely doing more of a timing type thing, and I stick it in the oven. I'm like, all right, 5 to 10 minutes, and mine will be done. I'll eat it regardless, and he liked his a little bit more done, so he cooked his a little longer. But I told him, I was like, well, you pay attention to that then. I've got mine done. I'm going to eat mine. And so that turned out all right. But yeah, it was definitely different. And yeah, it's one of those things, 6 in one, half a dozen the other, it's so frustrating. But then once you get to eat it, it's like, wow, that was so good and worth it.
Yeah.
But when you're going through it, you're like, I don't know if this is worth it. I don't know if I want to do this again or not. So
now, had you caught fish, would you be cooking the fish?
Yeah, but Richard's a really good cook himself within his own right, especially when it comes to trout, because he does so much trout fishing and cooks a lot of trout. So I probably would have just sat back and let him do that. So
wait, yeah, but you guys would have eaten what you caught.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and it was trout.
Yeah, that's what we were going after for sure. But we were down on Lake Taneycomo, and they had the turbines open, for running power throughout Branson. And man, the water was so swift and so fast, and there wasn't anybody catching anything that we talked to. Everybody was like, "No, they're not biting." And then one day we like, well, forget this, and we drove an hour west to Roaring River near Cassville, Missouri, and went to a trout hatchery. And we get there and folks are lined up. I mean, it's like, all right, we'll catch some fish here. And I had a bite and that was it. And then pretty soon, Richard's like, man, everybody's leaving. Everybody's gone. And he's, like, well, they're leaving because the fish ain't biting. So, we still didn't catch anything. So yeah, it was, but hey, you know what? A bad day of fishing is better than a good day at work for sure. So really a good day of anything else, right? So it was fun. It was fun getting away, spending time with my brother-in-law and getting out, along the streams and things. So that was nice. So definitely had a good time with that, for sure. So, well, man, we got a couple other things to talk about. Before we do, though, let's go ahead and mention one of our partners. And today we're going to be mentioning Kick-Ash Basket. Kick-Ash Basket has the accessories for your grill. Whether you've got a Kamado like the Big Green Egg, the KJ, the Vision, or maybe you've got a PK grill or a Weber. Man, they have got the charcoal basket for you, and they've got all kinds of other accessories and tools as well, as far as heat-resistant gloves, charcoal gloves. They've got the J.J. George Grill Torch on their website, a favorite of John and myself. And so go to their website, kickashbasket.com, and check them out. And be sure and tell them Blind Grilling Experience sent you. So, John, before we started our talk today, one of the things you had mentioned was charcoal. And I'm a big fan of FOGO, and FOGO had partnered with us, last year and the year before. I think when we delivered your egg to you. We provided also a bag of FOGO charcoal. And that is probably my favorite, and it continues to be, no doubt. I mean, I continue to use FOGO for our cooks. You've kind of experimented a little bit. You've done some different brands and things, but what are you thinking on on charcoal? What's been some of your experience on the charcoal?
Well, I used when you came, there was a bag of FOGO, and then I think there was 1 or 2 bags provided by the grill store, Big Green Egg probably brand. I don't know. I didn't really know what to expect then, so everything was, just okay. This is charcoal. I mean, that was my first experience with lump charcoal, so I didn't. I don't know if I knew what to expect, but for me, I think I was using, I think mostly what my brother was using, and that's one reason because he was using it in his egg. But I think the other thing was availability. There's a Home Depot very close to me, and they sell Royal Oak, which is I don't know, the redheaded stepchild of the Big Green Egg brand. I don't know the story there, but apparently there's a story. And I've been using that really ever since. I did get some B&B charcoal. I was at an academy, which is a sports and outdoor store around these parts.
Yeah.
And they had B&B, and I thought, well, let's try that. And it was okay. I didn't think it was great or terrible. It was just okay. And I don't know. Royal Oak was really easy for me to get. It was very accessible. It's easier for me to get to some of those other places than it is the grill store near me.
Yeah.
But then about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, Home Depot's not selling it anymore. So I don't know what they changed to. It was something else. So I thought, okay, well, I guess it's time to switch it up. So now we've been going to the grill store. The last bag I bought was the Big Green Egg bag, which I don't know. I'm not really. I don't know the finesse of the charcoal and really what to look for, or what makes it good or bad versus I think FOGO is probably the best one I've used. Mostly because of what you tell me about it. And I know the chunks, the pieces are bigger, and I think that's better. The bag's bigger. I think it's 35 pounds is maybe the size of the bag.
And that really depends on who's ordering, the store that's selling, because some folks only do the 17.6, size pound bag.
Got both of them. They've got I think the 35's in a yellow bag, and they have another type, right?
Yeah, there's super premium, which is the really big chunks, and then there's just the premium, which comes in a black bag.
So they've got what's smaller. It's not a 35-pound bag, I don't think. And then I was doing the math. I mean, FOGO's more expensive. I don't know if it was the most expensive. It might be the most expensive one that they sell at my store. But I've seen it other places, and then when I start doing the math with the conversion for the bag size difference, it's really not that much more expensive.
Yeah.
So the next bag I buy will be FOGO.
Gotcha. Yeah. And that's something that, when it comes to the charcoal, there's a lot of personal preference to that. I mean, some people have really bad experiences, and I've had some bad experiences with certain brands of charcoal. And, the FOGO, someone had told me about FOGO, and I, tried it out and loved it. I mean, thought it was awesome, which is why, I'd gotten in touch with them about partnering with our Blind Grill and Deliveries a few years ago. And they were on board. They jumped all over it. So, so it wasn't something that we were pushing because they joined with us. It was something that we were like, hey, we love this product. We want to share it, with these folks. And they were like, absolutely, they want to be a part of it. And so, we use FOGO, and there are certain things about it that I like. I think not only is it harder, I mean, it's a really dense wood, that you're getting with that. It seems harder. It seems to create less ash. but also it seems kind of neutral, when it comes to flavor profile. Big Green Egg is great. It has a great smell. It has a great, it without even adding any wood chunks itself, you're going to get a really good an oak flavor, kind of a Missouri oak flavor to your meat that you're cooking, and you're going to smell that, I think, through the Big Green Egg brand. I think you get that in and of itself. But if you really want to, bring along a different type of smoke flavor, from your fruit woods or, nut woods, pecan, peach, things like that. I think FOGO works really well to be a little bit more neutral and really allow those chunks of wood that you put in to really shine. And really tell that's the kind of wood that you're using, for your smoke. So that's one thing I really like about the FOGO charcoal. And it's actually been the one that everyone can get here, whereas everything else has been, out of stock. It's been hard to get, with everything that's been going on, whether it's, Blues Hog or Royal Oak or, Rockwood or, a lot of these other brands, folks just don't have. Even the Big Green Egg brand has been in short supply, it seems. But at least the store here, Pits and Grills, one thing they've been able to get was FOGO. And so we've been able to at least have some charcoal during all this.
Doesn't appear to be a supply issue here, other than the change in what my store was selling. They had plenty of it, and then they had plenty of the new stuff. But when I went to the Premier Grilling, the store here near me, they had a ton of charcoal. They had the Big Green Egg, and they had, I think, the 2 FOGO brands. And I feel like they may have had one other one.
Yeah, probably.
And there was a big stack of them.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, and that's, I just think FOGO lasts longer in my experience, but granted, I've become probably a little bit biased, but I think it's through the use itself, that I've really come to really enjoy the FOGO brand of charcoal. And so that's been, that's been my experience with it. And I've tried several different brands, and that's just the one that I keep getting back to. And there are some that I haven't tried that I'm sure are great, and that I would like to, but, right now, FOGO's available, and it's hard to leave something that you really like, when it comes, when you find something that's working well, it's hard to change it up.
No, I think with your experience and all the grilling you've done, if you say FOGO is the best, then you're probably right. And that, I think that, again, that's where I'm going next. I'll get some FOGO next.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I haven't tried them all, for sure. So, but out of what I have tried, definitely FOGO is got to be one of my favorites. So definitely enjoy that for sure. Any other gadgets or anything you've been messing with as far as on the grill is concerned? Any other, cooks that you're really looking forward to coming up?
No, I've still got some baby backs on the list, but I haven't done that yet.
Okay.
For some reason.
Yeah.
That didn't happen, but
yeah, I've got a brisket coming up. I'm going to do a brisket pretty soon. I think we've got some folks who are going to be visiting from out of town. And so, we're going to be putting a brisket on the smoker and doing that. And, kind of looking forward to that. I've been able to do, like I said, a little bit of traveling. We've cooked and grilled some shrimp, some royal red shrimp. Love that. Done some Serena, some scallops and things. So that's a few things that we've done. My brother and I went up to my dad's and a couple of weeks ago and cooked out on his egg up there, and had some steaks and shrimp and scallops, and feasted like kings, up there visiting with dad. So that was good. Enjoyed that. But
how do you cook the scallops on the egg? Use a skillet?
You certainly can, or you can just do it right there on the grate. The sea scallops are bigger than the bay scallops, and we had the sea scallops. We had some bigger scallops, so they were really nice and worked well.
Just right on the grate.
Yep. So, and long as you're cooking hot, man, they do not take long at all. Cool. So, yeah, that's a fast cook, and man, they're so good. Some folks don't like them, but But I love them. I really enjoy them. And usually it's a texture issue, I think, with folks who are wondering, if they like scallops or not. I'll tell them if they don't like medium rare, fillets, especially the texture of a medium rare fillet, more on the rare side, then it probably won't like scallops that are cooked right. But because I think that's the texture that I think of when it comes to, something like a scallop. I don't know. Have you eaten many, or do you like them?
I like them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever, trying to think of, I feel like maybe I've cooked them in a skillet on the stove maybe once.
Yeah.
But at a restaurant, I have, yeah, I like them.
Yeah. 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 They're awesome.
I don't know what kind of scallops I've had. If they're
sea or bay.
See, it's probably bay. It seems to me like they're usually
pretty small.
Small, like the size of a kind of like a large marshmallow.
Yeah. Okay.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah. 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 The sea scallops are usually a little bit bigger, a little thicker. So, but man, yeah, I love them. I think they're good. Just a little bit of salt and pepper and sear them, and that works for me for sure. So, as far as the egg is concerned, and there was something I was going to ask you about that 5-piece. So you've used the second tier. You've used the regular rack, of course, the basket. What about the lower tier?
No,
you haven't used that yet.
No.
Yeah, that's getting awful close to the fire.
Yeah, well, especially if I've got 10 brats and 12 burgers on, I should probably not put anything down that low.
Yeah, right.
Now, what do you do down there?
I mean, that would be, a really good place if you were going to sear something, if you wanted to do, your, maybe a little bit lower, reverse sear something with either your burgers or your steaks, on the top rack, a little bit further away from the fire, and then, crank it up and then throw them down low, and get them close to that fire to sear. That would be, probably what I would do, that, or, cook some other, like a pot of beans or something down there on that bottom rack, just to catch the drippings and, and kind of act a little bit like a convector plate or something, just to, create a little barrier, but then catch the dripping. So that's kind of what I would use it for.
I wanted to ask you about the top part, the top vent, or what's the top piece called? I don't know the wheel of the egg.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The eggulator.
Yeah. Is that what they call it?
I think that's what the new one anyway. The one piece rather than the daisy wheel that has the two pieces that spin.
You really are into that, using the word egg and everything.
Yeah, right? I know it. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
You like that. So I have the original cast iron daisy wheel, which is working fine. Yep. You've switched to the eggulator, right?
Yes, I have.
Well, the sliding top instead of the I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, it still, it still opens kind of like the daisy wheel does, but the thing about it, rather than just relying upon that hinge and being real loose, a lot of people talk about it flopping open, and you get used to how you put it on to where you don't have that issue nearly as much. But the thing about that new eggulator that they've got is it actually has magnets, and it'll hold it tight, and it moves a lot smoother, but it doesn't flop. Where you put it where you want it, and it stays no matter how much you open or close the lid of your egg. That top vent doesn't move. It doesn't slide open or close, or make any changes unintentionally. So if you want to move that, if that's going to move, you're going to have to do it, which is great. I think that's worked out really well for me. Because on the daisy wheel, there's been a few times, as much as I was very careful and usually had it set, that there was a few times where it would move and I didn't catch it because, you don't see it, and you don't think about reaching up and double checking it. And either it opened and the heat got way too hot, or it closed it and my temperature dropped, and you find out, and it just kind of, ruins your cook a little bit.
Yeah,
So
well, I can see where because with the one I have, the standard one, um, there's two mechanisms there. There's the sliding
the large
circular
hole,
open, and then there's the little holes on the wheel
right?
part. This is what you would call it. And so it's oftentimes hard for me to figure out if the little holes are open, and if so, how far.
Yeah.
For me, I can't really see it that well, depending upon the lighting and what's going on. But I more oftentimes rely on kind of trying to see what kind of smoke's coming out to see if it's like a lot or a little. But that's not a good way to do it for me either. But I could see where the other one, the new one, seems like I'd be a little more accurate in how I was knowing how it's opened, like how much it's opened or closed.
Yeah. And I think so, and especially when you run your pit probe, through the top and down, and clip it to the back of the eggs thermometer. It's then you just slide that closed right over the top, and it let the flame boss do its job. So that's kind of what how I do that. But when I want to do a cook at 450 and I'm not going to use the flame boss, I've gotten mine where about 2 fingers wide on the top is will set me between right around that 400 degrees. And so and it once, like I said, once you get it there, it stays. That's the great thing about it. It just doesn't slide around on you. So I really have enjoyed it.
Yours?
What's that?
How long have you had yours? The top part?
Let's see, the new top. More than a year now, anyway.
And does it collect like the soot? Or
yeah, it can. I mean, and that's another thing. They're shipping the new eggs out without the green top. The cap. Yeah. They don't even have the green cap anymore. You just leave that eggulator on top, and then when you close it, it shuts it down. And it doesn't as bad, and it's easier, but it's easier to clean. Once you slide that open, you can just take a little bit something to kind of rub that rim a little bit, and then the underside, because it's almost like a flat cast iron plate that you're sliding back and forth, and so that underside, just kind of rub it just a little bit occasionally, and I haven't had any issues with being able to open or close it or getting it stuck or anything like that. So, but occasionally I'll kind of wipe off that rim where there's a little bit of buildup, but nothing like what the old Daisy wheel would get clogged up. So yeah, that's been one of my favorite. Other than the basket that holds the plate setter. That eggulator, as far as what Big Green Egg themselves have put out, that's been one of my favorite accessories, and of course it ships with the eggs now, large and extra large. So yeah, I'm loving it. I like it.
Another accessory, I guess I got to get. Although it seems more of a luxury at this point. There's nothing really wrong with mine at all.
Right.
So that I it's on the list.
Sure, man. Yeah. And that list can grow, man. I tell you what. Yeah, that list can keep on growing. So that's awesome. But anyway, that's cool though. Well, dude, it's been great chatting with you, and look forward to hearing about your rib cook you got coming up. We need to go and we need to talk about a brisket cook, and maybe that'll be one of our next talks, and just go over what we do with briskets, and and talk about some time and temp and probe and all that with a brisket. I think that'd be a good discussion, and maybe help out some folks who are really intimidated by that king of meats. A lot of folks are wanting to know how to do the brisket, and I think we could help them out and try to eliminate just how intimidating it can be. Just kind of bring it down to a level that I think hopefully we can convince them to give it a try, because I think they won't regret it for sure.
Well, that would be a good discussion, and I think we need to do that, because I'm not intimidated, but I'm not as comfortable as you are by any stretch of the imagination. So That's definitely something I can improve on my technique and stuff too. So
Yeah,
we
sure.
we should do that.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Well, that sounds good, man. John, good chatting with you. Glad you made it on, and we'll look forward to the next program as well, as always.
Yeah, good chatting with you, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, I hope you'll check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/blindgrilling. Go to facebook.com/blindgrilling. Be sure to subscribe, like, and send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Our email address is blindgrilling@gmail.com. And of course, we've got our website, which we will be working on soon, I hope, which is blindgrilling.org. And so you can be sure and check that out as well. And of course, as always, remember, if you're looking, you ain't cooking.